What's up, everybody? It's DJ JoJo back with another episode of Harlem State of Mind podcast. I'm here at Angel of Harlem as per usual, where culture, food, and community intersect. And I have a very special guest with me in the building today. He's a man that wears many hats. He seems to do it all, but his true love is creativity and photography. So please give a warm welcome today to Mr. Daniel Henry.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to clap for myself. Appreciate the opportunity.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for giving us some of your time today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Of course. I would just like to start off by saying I love the fit. I love your glasses. They're very, very funky. I'm a glasses girly myself, but I've been wearing contacts because...
Well, my philosophy is this. I've been wearing glasses since I was like 8, 9 years old.
Okay.
But if you got to wear them, at least look good.
Right. I like those.
So that's my philosophy with it. If I'm going to spend money on something, I'm going to spend some money. And I have to do it. I'm going to spend money on glasses. And then people will be like, well, why'd you wear that color? Well, because it matches my tie. Then they look at my tie. I was like, wait a minute. It matches your watch.
Yeah.
So, it's
all cohesive. It all goes together.
I learned back in 1992 from Boomerang, you got to coordinate. So that's
period. And plus we're in Harlem, so you got to get...
Absolutely.
Well, for the people that may not know who you are, just introduce yourself, and I know we were just talking before we started, just like explain a little bit of what you do. What's your day job, and then what do you do in photography?
No, absolutely. So I'm Dan Henry. A lot of people call me Dan Henry, New York. I'm a photographer, writer, bon vivant, as my friends say.
Bon vivant.
Bon vivant.
Bon vivant.
Look, I just live the life. My friends tell me. Friends tell me I have a charmed life, and I think about it sometimes. Like, you know what? I guess I do. But what I tell them is my life is no different than yours. I just have better commentary. So I'm one of those people. I embrace life. I've been here in New York 7 years now.
Okay, cool.
I tell people I'm New York with a Southern sensibility.
All right.
I fell in love with this place, and not to get too far ahead of the conversation, but I left for a little bit. I worked for the city of New York, worked for a mayoral office, the public engagement unit, where the purpose of that unit is to really kind of go out and literally engage with the public and let New Yorkers know about the benefits and things that,
which is very important.
That they may not have. But prior to that, working for the city, I was with the Office of Asylum Seeker Operations. So I was involved with taking care of the 240,000 migrants who came here in New York. So I was the director of external affairs for that office. But before that, I was director of communications for the United States Coast Guard here in New York, who really kind of, New York is always going to be one of those places that is a beacon for folks who want to do harm. And the Coast Guard's job is really to take care of it. That's the job. I still love it. I'm prior military. I would honestly say if there's one job that I kind of miss and I would go back to in a heartbeat, if y'all want to hire me back again, I'd love to go back to the Coast Guard. Not so much because of the job itself, but because it was one of those positions where I knew what the mission was, and I could see the impacts of it, both on the people who were carrying it out and how they protected New York. So it's something I loved, and I got to tell that story. So obviously, I'm a storyteller, but I do it visually, and what a lot of people know me for is my photography, and that's what I pursue here in New York. And it's my love and my passion, and it's one of those things where I'm a firm believer in the notion of manifestation, and you speak life into your dreams. And at some point along the line, I said I was going to be a New York photographer, and guess what? I'm a New York photographer.
Yes, I love that. Round of applause, because that's true. Like, the power of the tongue is real.
Absolutely.
So I want to go into the first job you were talking about, because you just listed like so many things.
Yeah. Well, as you already said, I got to wear a lot of hats.
Right. But like you said, you live a charmed life. So, but I want to start off by you talking about working in public engagement, because I think that it's really important. It's something that we don't talk about enough. At least people in my generation, we don't talk about it enough, because I feel like today in politics, like we live in such like a polarized country where it's like Democrats versus Republicans, like MAGA versus like liberals, and like people get so caught up on like the mainstream politics that we don't understand how important it is to also do work on the local level. They think that like everything is up to the president or something. And so I think I'm wondering like, do you think that the average New Yorker like lacks civil civic knowledge? And if so, like, how do you think that we can fix that in our society?
I wouldn't necessarily categorize it or put it, paint the brush on just New Yorkers. We live in a very, as you noted, a very polarized world right now. And we also live in a world where people don't critical think the way they used to. And I think that's driven by the nature of how we receive media nowadays.
Yeah.
You know, when I was coming up, and I'm not going to age myself, but there's a reason why my beard, the white in my beard matches my shirt. When I was growing up, we had 3 TV channels. We had 3 regular channels, and we had a public television, PBS, which is still around.
Shout out PBS.
And this was, and you know, if you're real fancy, you got a satellite, so you got some extra channels and stuff like this. That's not the case anymore. We live in a world where the media cycle is 24 hours a day, so they have to find something to put on there. And as somebody who's worked in media and things of that nature, I learned a long time ago, the negative is what sells. And so that's what they all kind of put out. So that's what people are bombarded with. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of times people kind of live in echo chambers. We don't listen to the other side so much. We always kind of like listen to the things that warm our hearts or confirm our biases and things of that nature. So that kind of skews it. So I think the folks nowadays, technology is at such a pace now where everybody is so intelligent, but they kind of lose out on some of those things that folks from older generations kind of like were immersed in because we had to be. So a lot of it kind of comes down to critical thinking. When it comes to public engagement, I'm saying public engagement in general, not just necessarily my job or the role I play in it, working in civic government. I think there's opportunities there. I think there are some amazing folks who are doing their thing with this generation. A few years back, I call it the summer of George Floyd. I was working with the Coast Guard at the time in 2020, and there was this tremendous rising, not just here in the U.S., but worldwide, but I watched it here in New York. And there were folks who kind of knew me from back in the day when I was young and militant. I was like, damn, you know, I was like, no, this is not my time. These kids, to me, and honestly, everybody under 40 is a kid to me. So these are these kids' time, and they're passionate, and they went out and they pursued these things. I think what gets lost sometimes, though, is again, like I said, we're in these echo chambers. So we're not open to this notion of the positions of the other side and finding middle ground. I think is easy, and I'm not going to sit here and place blame on either one, though I have my own personal thoughts on it. What I've learned is ultimately working for the city of New York, I could care less if somebody's Democrat, Republican, a socialist. I want to take care of New Yorkers. So that's why we're here, and that's the work that we do. We want to make sure that somebody is eligible for fair fares and then get 50% off of their ability to travel. Look, I spend a lot of money on traveling, and yes, I'm a New Yorker with a car, because remember, I'm from Florida originally. So I had 2 cars up here one time.
Flex.
But I keep it parked in Brooklyn because I got a deal on some parking over there. But even that, I'm traveling, across the city. Just today, I was out in. I had a dental appointment first thing in the morning, and I was out with a couple of our teams over in Bushwick and Bedside. Okay. And they were going door knocking, making sure people knew about changes with SNAP to make sure they were eligible and they stayed eligible for those things. And then I was back up here to Harlem because I had another crew out here to meet with them, and then I knew I was going to be coming here. So I don't really think about it, but I probably spent about $15-20, on traveling. Well, I do okay in life. And there are a lot of people who don't do as okay as I do. And that spending that $20, while I don't want to spend it, spending that $20 just traveling is easier for me than it is for a lot of New Yorkers. Right. But there are services and benefits and things out there for New Yorkers who don't have that kind of money. So being able to work in an environment where we meet people where they are and tell them about those things is very, very powerful. So those are the most important things to me. When I was working for the Office of Asylum Seeker Operations, there's this new generation of New Yorkers who came here for whatever reason, and we see that we can see the Statue of Liberty, and it has always been this beacon, and New York is a city of immigrants. We're 400 years old now. Right. Well, this is just another generation of New Yorkers, so we had to find a way to take care of them, irrespective of what other political shenanigans or things were going on. These were humans, and we saw that on a daily basis. And the most important thing for me was they got here, they're a New Yorker now. And I don't get caught up in, I remember one night I was at one of my favorite dive bars, and somebody was telling me, well, you're not from here. You're New York. I'm going to tell you something. I pay taxes here. I said, and I get around, and I was like, I ignore the guy that's dancing on the subway, which happened today. I should have taken a video, but I was trying very hard to ignore. I'm like, so I experienced all those things. So no, I wasn't born and raised here, but I love this place, and it's become a part of my DNA. So if somebody comes here, I want to open the door for them and give them the opportunity to get here. If because of the job I do, that helps do that, then I'm all about it. It's not, there's no ego in this. New Yorkers historically have been some of the most resilient people in the world. New York has been through 9/11. New York was in the first World Trade bombing. I remember not long after 9/11, there was and I wasn't living here. There was a airplane crash. Whenever something happens, New Yorkers stand up for each other. Hurricane Sandy happened. New Yorkers stand up for each other. So that is a badge that all New Yorkers wear. It's just part of who we are. I was sick during COVID. I almost didn't make it out of COVID. My neighbors, and you get this notion, you hear this thing that New Yorkers are mean and all these other different things. No, they bent over backwards to help me.
New Yorkers are very
New Yorkers, but now, there's a difference between being kind and being nice. New Yorkers might not be nice, but they are kind.
Right, exactly, exactly.
And honestly, I'll take kind because kind is real.
Exactly. And also, like, even though you're not from here, like, you can have an obvious love of New York and you engage in the community. So that makes you a New Yorker.
No,
so
absolutely. Without question. My friends be like, man, New York looks good on you. I'm like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is a powerful thing.
That's awesome. Well, we were talking about working with asylum seekers. And I feel like that is so interesting because, I don't know, it's just like, I have these conversations sometimes, like with my family that doesn't live in New York, because they'll just read the news about what's going on in New York instead of actually like seeing what's happening on the ground. And I feel like things can really get kind of like misconstrued sometimes, which I think it's beautiful when you said these are people, because I feel like with like politics and everything, like the whole sense of them being people gets erased, and it's more like they're a statistic, or it's criminals, or it's like it's something bad happening, when it's like these are people and they're looking for asylum, they need help.
Well, I tell you, it's very easy to sit at a distance and judge somebody else. It's different when you're there and you see a family come in and nobody speaks, or maybe the child speaks a little English and the parents don't. But this family has traveled through the Darien Gap. From Colombia to Panama and through Guatemala, and they've been on this journey, and they've seen things and experienced things that I, as a 55-year-old man, have never experienced in my life. And these are traumatic experiences, but they did all this to find a better life. And for me, I know somebody, if they did all that, what's the least I can do? I can help them get somewhere to live. I can help them get some food. I can find a way to connect them with resources so that they have this thing we call the American dream. And a lot of people, they think, well, they're just coming to New York. No, a lot of people want to go in other places. Politics, people are playing kind of chess, and with chess pieces, and like, okay, this is gamesmanship, and I'm going to send this group here and send this group there, and we're going to show you. And these are people's lives, and the people we're playing with. A lot of them, they didn't want to come here. They had family in Arizona. They had family in Texas, but they were put on a bus to New York. That's not something they asked for, but they were here. And then once they got here, we had services. Just so happened, New York is one of those cities where they put into play a long time ago. If somebody ever comes here and they need somewhere to stay, there's a law that says we have to house them. There is a law. There are laws on the books to where anybody comes to New York, we have to house them, and that's kind of where it. But that's also where it was kind of like a double-edged sword, because so many people came at one time that we had to find ways to house nearly 240,000 people in a very, very short period of time. And without the budget to do that, but we found a way to do it because we knew that was the right thing. Because again, we weren't looking at it from a distance. We were looking at a child's eyes. Because again, it goes to that idea and that notion that New York is this centerpiece of resilience. New York is going to find a way. And there's something about New Yorkers. And look, there was pressure. There was money that had to be pulled from one area to go to another area to solve these things. But you know what? One thing the former mayor used to say is, New York has 8.5 million people and 35 million opinions. And that's true. But that being said, ultimately, you got all those opinions, but you realize I still got to take care of these people because history is going to look at us. And the question is, what side of history you want to be on? New York is always going to be on the right side of history.
I love that. Well, I want to get into your work in photography now because, we've talked about the day jobs. You've done the.
So I joined the Navy and I got stationed in Puerto Rico. Best 3.5 years of my life. I got stationed in Puerto Rico. I checked in. I trained as a medic. I served with at Camp Lejeune. Was going to go with the Marines if we went to war to be a combat medic. And I was a nurse and I was also an EMT. So I had all these skills.
Oh my gosh!
But
so you know everything.
I get there. Well, don't ask people like, well, if something happened, if I have a heart attack, what would you do? I would call 911. I don't focus on that no more. But I get there and I had a conversation with a commanding officer, and within 10 minutes, he was like, "Where are you going to work?" Because he was like, "What do you do?" I was like, "I write." And he was like, "What do you write?" I said, "Poetry, all this stuff." Because I just spoken word, all these different things. Just talking about creativity. It's just not just one thing. It's just all this creativity. And they gave me a camera. I had always dreamed of having a camera, and I had like little point and shoots. No, they actually was like, "What do you want?" I was like, "I can tell you the camera I want." And they bought me a camera, and it was film. And the first time I shot, this is back when you can get like 35 shots on a piece of film. Out of 35 shots, I might have got one shot, but I got a picture of somebody in focus and everything else blurred. And I was like, I'm a photographer. Now, I was horrible, but I knew that was my love. And very soon after, I also noticed that at military events, the only person that could move during the national anthem was a photographer. So, and the other folks, they would like always, I hated the pictures everybody else did. So remember, I'm thinking like somebody who paints and draws. So I see things differently than somebody who's just like taking pictures. And I was saying, we're in Puerto Rico, and if you've ever been to Puerto Rico, but there are areas of Puerto Rico where it feels like you could just reach up and touch the clouds. Yeah. And it's like that, like everywhere. And we'd be outside with all these uniforms. I never forget one day, I saw like everybody in line uniform, and I had on a white uniform. I laid down on the ground, and my boss was kind of, I saw him out because he was at attention. And he kind of saw him out of the corner of my eye, and I'm like, just work with me. And I saw this shot, and I shot this wide angle shot. And I ran inside because I knew he was going to yell at me. He comes and he said, "Why were you?" And I just turned around. And it was this dramatic photograph of everybody saluting with these puffy clouds and this beautiful blue sky. And we're in Puerto Rico, so you got palm trees and all. And he looked at it and said, "Don't ever let anybody tell you how to do your job." Wow. And I knew he believed in me because he knew I had a vision. And interestingly enough, I would submit, because I worked for a hospital, I would submit images to go into the base newspaper because I was a public affairs officer. People started calling me, "Are you the photographer from the hospital?" And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "Do you take other stuff besides like work stuff?" I was like, "Oh, I hadn't. Why?" They was like, "Your pictures don't look like everybody else's." And people said, "Well, could you take my family's pictures?" And then it evolved into, "Could you come photograph a wedding?" This was something I wasn't even trying to do. But a chaplain, a pastor of mine, Maurice Buford, and everybody's names, he called me in his office one day and he said, "I got something for you." And I said, "What's that?" And he handed me the Bible, and I was like, "Okay." He said, "Open it." And it was the thing that said, it turned to Proverbs 18:16. Okay. It says, "A man's gifts will make a way for him and bring him in the presence of great men." Wow. People saw my talent, and the doors started opening for me. I wasn't doing anything. I was simply the vessel to do it. And I just was shooting, and all these doors started opening. Fast forward a bunch of years and a bunch of other stuff that happens. I ended up coming to New York, and I remember saying to myself at some point, "You know what? I'm gonna be in New York, and I'm gonna have a gallery exhibit. I'm gonna have my work in one of these big galleries and an exhibition, and all this stuff." And lo and behold, it happened. I had a big exhibition last December at in Tribeca at Anita Rogers Gallery. A couple hundred people came out. It was as cold as this winter has been. It was December 16th. Oh, it's cold. It was a Tuesday night. It was so cold. I remember talking, and I was like, first of all, if I didn't have to be here, I wouldn't be here because I hate the cold. But it was just amazing experience. And I'd already had a couple of like smaller things, but I really kind of fell into the whole jazz thing. And I shoot everything. I shoot weddings, I shoot headshots, I shoot Sweet 16s, you name it, I've shot it. And I shoot a lot of stuff for work, a lot of military stuff. I won awards in the military just for photography. But one night I was actually at a wedding thing, trying to book some weddings, and I was stuck in the rain coming from Queens. And I was living on Staten Island at the time. and I'm driving on the BQE, and traffic's going nowhere, and it's raining. So I'm like watching TikTok while I'm driving, like everybody else does. And I see this burger that they're advertising for this place, because Red Hook Burger, Red Hook Tavern. And I was like, you know what? I'm hungry. It's going to take me 2 hours to get home. I might as well just get off in Brooklyn. I went to Red Hook Tavern. I parked across from it, went in. Burger was great. I didn't think it was worth $30, but it was a really good burger.
Okay.
But where I parked it, I noticed it was a vinyl record shop. I was like, I see a guy outside, he's smoking some weed. He was like, hey, what's up, man? I'm like, what's up? He was like, yeah, it's my record shop. I said, oh, I want to see it. And I see a kid in there, and she's like on the turntable. She can't be more than 8. And it's a little girl like spinning.
Oh, that's
like,
fine.
like you, probably like you, right? And he takes me in there, and I see like pictures of him with like large professors. I was like, yo, you know these people? He's like, yeah, they're buddies of mine, and we're chatting and chopping. He said, yeah, it's also a performance space. I said, really? He was like, yeah. I said, how? He said, oh, we just push everything out of the way. So all the record bins, everything was on wheels. He said, that's the stage. He said, what are you doing tomorrow night? This is a Sunday. I was like, nothing. He was like, you should come through. Ravi's going to be here. There's only 2 Ravis I know of, Ravi Shankar and Ravi Coltrane. I said, like John Coltrane's son, Ravi? He was like, yeah. He's going to be here on a Monday night. And he was like, yeah, he's a buddy of mine. No kidding. I was like, can I bring my camera? He's like, yeah. So I come in, I bring my camera, and there's several other people playing. And then this guy who looks like John Coltrane, but with kind of spiky hair, comes up and starts playing saxophone.
Wow.
And I got my camera and I'm shooting. And I can't believe I'm in this moment, because this is one of those only in New York.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of thing that happens. And I tagged the record show, and I posted them, went home and edited them, and I shot everything in black and white. And people ask, why do you shoot in black and white? I said, I shoot in color too. I said, when I shoot jazz, it to me, it's kind of like this pathway to the past. When I saw pictures of like Miles Davis and Ron Carter and John Coltrane and all of them, they were always black and white images that they were shooting because they were timeless and classic. So I tend to shoot like that. Also, plus the fact that these clubs are dark and color just gets muddy in the dark. Again, it's that whole thing with light. So there's a elegance to shooting in black and white. So I shot in black and white, and I posted these pictures, and it went viral. Everybody kind of like loved this stuff, and I started thinking, man, I got to find some more jazz. Maybe this is kind of like my niche. And I asked around, and some people told me about it. They said, hey, you need to go check out this place called Ornithology. And I remember saying, like, the study of birds. And I was like, how'd you know that? I was like, I just know stuff.
Trivial knowledge.
Exactly. I said, I just know. I was like, yeah. He was like, no. I said, but like Charlie Parker, he had an album. He said, yeah, Ornithology. So there's a jazz spot in Sudiam Street in Brooklyn, right at Bed-Stuy Inns and Bushwick Bend, called Ornithology. And it's really cool because they got a jazz cafe and they got a jazz bar. It's on like $10 to get in. And it wasn't pretentious like a lot of other jazz spots are. $10, you get it either side. You don't have to wait for the next set. You can just get out, walk out, go smoke, do whatever. So I noticed people were using their phones to video and take pictures. So I just asked the girl, because I always ask permission. And I was like, hey, is it cool if I go get my lens and shoot? She was like, yeah. So I came in and I shot. And one thing about jazz musicians, as much as they're playing, they're aware of everything that's going on. And I shoot this stuff. This guy named, I want to say his last name is Zolan, Eric Zolan. He was playing guitar. He's like, hey man, I saw you shooting. You mind if I see? I was like, yeah, sure. And he's like, holy shit, you just shot that? I was like, yeah. So he called the rest of the band over. And it was like, hey, could you tag us? I was like, yeah, of course.
That's awesome.
There was a guy at the bar. He wasn't playing. I had no idea who he was. He was hanging at the bar, had dreads. He was, hey man, he's drinking an old fashioned. Hey man, let me see your camera. I showed him. He was like, damn, you just shot that? What you doing Saturday night? I was like, nothing. And he's like, meet me at Dizzy's. I was like, what's Dizzy's? He said, oh, Lincoln Center. He said, just tell me with the band. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to Lincoln Center. I show up. What I did not know was it was a jazz festival. It's like 10 bands playing. I have no idea. I don't know what their name is. I just know they're from Brooklyn. And so the girl at the door was like, this goes to something we already talked about. Girl says, she said, what's your name? I was like, Dan Henry. She was like, well, I don't see you. She's like, I like your glasses. I'm going to let you in. And she just let me in. And I went in and I shot. What I did not know, and same thing, I edited all this stuff. What I did not know was Diallo. His name's Diallo House. He's a bassist. Plays an upright bass. Diallo is connected to, I would say, if there are 6,000 musicians in New York, Diallo knows 5,000 of them. I mean, So I tag it, and all these musicians see the stuff, and they just started hitting me up. Hey, yo, I saw your stuff. I've never seen, like images like that. What are you doing such and such night?
Wow.
Telling you in the band. I'm like, all right, you got to tell them though, because I showed up one time and don't nobody know who I am.
Mm.
And I go to end up getting invited to Smalls Jazz Club, which is arguably the most popular jazz club here in New York City. And if you've never been, it's in the West Village. Everything is downstairs.
Okay.
But everybody's played there. Like, I mean, Monk might have played there. It's like this place has been around. This space has been there since the 50s and 60s. Other places like Arthur's Tavern, Village Vanguard, all this stuff. So again, I go in and I shoot, and and this is the most beautiful thing about it. I get accepted into and brought into this jazz community. They are some of the most giving people. You hear about like people competing against each other, and yes, they're competing for gigs and stuff like that. But I found them to be a very, very open and cheerleading community for one another. Mm-hmm. And they got this thing at Smalls in the middle of the night where, kids from like Juilliard or high school kids, they can just hop up on the stage. You might be playing with Ron Carter, or you might be playing with Kristen McBride, or these famous, these famous jazz people in the middle of the night, because it doesn't close till 4 o'clock in the morning. And you're just getting this amazing music. And I have somehow found myself as kind of a latter day documentarian of a lot of this here in New York City.
Wow. That's so cool. And it's like what you were going back to with the Proverbs verse. Like, it's just a gift that was naturally given to you that you've really been able to network with it, or join a network of people through it. So that's a really great story, just how it's been able to grow. And like what you said, only in New York, because how is it?
Only in New York. Like, I've been other places, I mean, for instance, my birthday was last week and I was in London. I mean, so here's the funny thing. Everybody thinks I'm just this jazz head. Oh man, my favorite music is 90s hip hop and R&B. That's my number one genre. My second favorite is honestly late 70s, early 80s yacht rock. Okay. So you give me Doobie Brothers, you give me Michael McDonald, you give me Kenny Loggins, you give me Hall & Oates, Ambrosia. I just love that. That's kind of like my road trip music. Christopher Cross Sailing, all that stuff. In fact, they have a big yacht rock review, and I go to it. And usually if I go, I'm like the only brother. But it's my thing. I got like a crew I go with. But even then, I'm the best dressed person there. So everybody kind of remember. They're like, what's up, Cap? But jazz holds this special place for me. But hip hop turned me on to jazz. I didn't know jazz first. Back in the 90s, again, I had these 3 lives. Before I joined the military, I ran a music store.
Oh, see, oh my gosh, so, another one. We need like a check for everything that he says that he does. Like a ding, okay.
Other than Coast Guard, best job I ever had. If they paid me a little bit more money, I would have never, it was like going to the club without going to the club. So I was around when D'Angelo first dropped. Wow. I was around when Maxwell first dropped. I remember Maxwell's CD was $9.99. I was sleeping on it because it was so cheap. I was like, he must not be that good. And one of my customers came in and was like, "Dang, you don't know about Maxwell?" And I put on Maxwell's Urban Hang Suite. It came out in like 96 because D'Angelo dropped in 95. And Erykah Badu dropped in 97, 96, 97. I remember the years that everything came out.
Wow.
So, I love music. But for me in storytelling, there's a beautiful story to jazz. And jazz is as much as hip hop is the vibe of New York, jazz is the cadence it was built on. It was, and I tell people, I was like, jazz might have been born in New Orleans. It came of age coming up to Mississippi and Kansas. Then it got to New York. This is where it busts its cherry. New York is the jazz mecca. And there are so many beautiful jazz musicians, and it, like I said, it's such a wonderful community. And I just love photographing it. And for the visuals. And if you look at my work, I'm not always, and if I shoot somebody, I'll shoot them too. But I'm not necessarily shooting portraits. That's not what I'm doing. I'm shooting them creating something beautiful.
I love that. And I feel like it all is like cohesive, because it's like your own creativity with the drawing and seeing things differently. And then being a music connoisseur that kind of also helps drive like how you shoot. And so I think I would love to look at some of your photos, or maybe we can like tag them in the video so you can see examples.
Absolutely. I'll make sure I get some stuff over to you.
Yeah, for sure. So, it's Harlem State of Mind podcast, so we got to bring it back to Harlem. So I want to ask you, What was it like your first time walking through Harlem?
Oh man, so you know what? It's crazy to think about it now. The first time you get these feels, and I don't, first time I walked through Harlem. First time I came to Harlem, I was like, I just got here. I was like, I gotta go to Sylvia's. It's like you hear about it. I gotta go to Sylvia's.
Yeah.
So I came to get some food. That was the first time. But the next time I came, because there's a men's store I go to, and it's not just here; it's in other places. I knew they had one here. I went shopping, but while I'm shopping, I'm walking down the street. And it's cats outside selling T-shirts and they're selling wares and all this stuff. And it's a constant soundtrack. And it's 90s hip hop. It's like I'm listening to Biggie. And, and then I'm like Mary J. Blige and Smith and West comes on. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm walking down the street and I see the Apollo and I'm like, I'm in Harlem. I'm in the Mecca. I'm a kid. I used to do spoken word poetry. I'm Langston Hughes. I'm Harlem Renaissance, County Color. I'm thinking of all these things. So it's hitting me. I'm like literally walking in these places, and then I see a statue of Adam Clayton Powell. And I remember being in college, and I went to school I went to Howard first, and I transferred to the University of Florida. And somebody asked me once, what's the best book you ever read? And I was like, Autobiography of Malcolm X.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I remember I say it's the only book I've ever read where I picked it up and I didn't put it down until I finished reading the entire book. I didn't go to sleep. And I'm walking in the places that Malcolm X walked. So those are the things that hit me. And I had visited New York before, but I never visited Harlem. But I was here now and I'm like, I got to go up to Harlem. And I know Harlem is part of Manhattan, but it feels like its own thing. It feels like its own borough. But I'll say that, and I'm unapologetic about it. There's not just one Harlem, because I'm over in East Harlem, and West Harlem and East Harlem don't feel the same. They don't, and and I'm not afraid to say it because there's neglect over on the east side of Harlem, but at the same time, it's being weirdly gentrified as well. I live in a big, pretty new building. I remember getting off because I never came up to that side. Oh, I did. I take it back. I went up there to shoot one time, but I drove. But this time I got off. I took the train on 125th in Lex.
125th and Lex.
I ain't gonna lie.
Ooh, child.
Look, I'm in the military. I grew up in Florida. I lived in D.C. area. Hung out in Baltimore. I've been in a rough place. I got off that. The first time I got to go look at the property, I was like,
"Yep,
this ain't like the other side, other end of 125th." It's a different experience, and I say that unapologetically because as a community, we have to take care of the people in the community. And I know there's a couple different Harlems, but it's still all Harlem, so it's the responsibility of everybody. But I also, and this comes from being in the military. When I go somewhere, that becomes my home. And so Harlem is not my home. And it's important for me to be a part of the community and do whatever I need to do in that community to help it and to be a beacon for folks within that community. And also to kind of enlighten people to the other parts of it. But, I live over there, but I do stuff over here. I came up here, like I said, I've been coming here 3 years. I remember I think I came in, like I stopped in. Actually, I think it might have been late Friday or Saturday. I came in. I told her right there, I just moved up to Harlem. To let everybody know that I was in the neighborhood now. So yeah, it's I love Harlem. I love it. Like I said, there's a furious beauty in New York. There's a furious beauty to Harlem. It's pretty and grimy, and there's some places that you have to be a lot more careful in. But even in that, it's the photography in me. I still see light.
I love that.
And you got to find that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, before you go, we have a little game that we play with all of our guests on the pod. Since we're talking about Harlem, it's going to be fill in the blank. So I'm just going to say something, say a sentence, and you got to fill in the blank.
All right.
So Harlem isn't Harlem without blank.
Harlem isn't Harlem without, I would say, Harlem isn't Harlem without the cats at 125th between Adam Clayton Powell and Frederick Douglass selling stuff.
Yeah.
It's they got everyday. oils, they got oils, they got watches. Hey, man, I got a watch. I was like, bro, I'm good on the watch. They got hats, they got everything. That has been something that every time I come out, it's consistent.
Mm-hmm. T-shirts, turtles.
You name it, they're gonna be out there selling.
That's fire. Okay. Since you like to get fly, this should be easy for you. You're not from Harlem if you don't have blank in your closet.
See, you might get me there, because I'm gonna say it's got to be shoes. I'm gonna say some Timberlands, or some sneakers, because I noticed there are a lot of sneakers. You walk down and you just see it in every window.
People are heavy on the white Air Force Ones, the white ups. We were just talking about that with the last guests that we had on.
You're gonna see some
white ups.
You're gonna see some sneakers, absolutely.
And some good glasses.
Oh yeah.
Definitely good glasses.
Fly all day. I see some. I said I like your glasses too. But folks go in. That's not. People will give you a compliment. They will give you a compliment. People in here, when they come, they will give you a compliment in here. I remember I came in with a friend one day. True story. We walked in. We were dressed. We went to the Met to go see some art, and we walked in and it was packed. It was some folks sitting at the bar. They saw us. They said, "Hey, y'all can have these seats." It was the best dressed people in. They was like, "Nah, y'all not gonna stand up and wait. Y'all gonna sit down."
Yeah.
It was like, look at that.
Look at that. That's fire.
So shout out to Franco. My friend Franco. We came in one night. We were dressed, and they gave us. They just gave up the seats.
Wow.
It be packed in here. I was like,
that's a good compliment.
Yeah. We were able to sit out immediately.
All right, and last one.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a real good, authentic Harlem vibe, good food, good people, good energy, you should go to blank.
Say less, Angel of Harlem. Absolutely. I'm gonna act like this is not influence, but this is where I send people. I do want to share this story. This is what kind of turned me on to, and when I tell you, a friend of mine, Alicia, turned me on to it. I was coming up here one Sunday to meet somebody, and I didn't really know like spots to go, and I was on down 116, and I was meeting this one restaurant. And it was winning some competition, but I got to shout it out because it gave me, it kind of formed this opinion on why I had to come back. This place called Boulevard. I had never seen
Boulevard
it before.
Is great.
Never seen it before.
Boulevard is great.
I get out my car and we go in this one place. It's probably 60, 70 people outside who can't get in, who got drinks. And Tevin Campbell, Can We Talk is playing. And everybody is outside singing, Can We Talk? And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, yo, I gotta be up here in Harlem. I'm like, this is Harlem? It was just such a beautiful moment, a beautiful spirited moment. But here's the thing. I've been here on Sundays. I've been here on Fridays, and the vibe is like that or even better here. Because we're at the bar and it's like the music is playing and you got like whole group. You might have some teachers, like it's the end of the school year, they're having a party right there. You might have somebody's birthday right there. You just got a regular folks like me vibing at the bar. Arturo Float, the Arturo Float, the bartenders, they know you, they know what you drank. It's just that thing. I come in, I do my thing, I sit at the bar, and this is what you do. I say, hey, I don't care what I'm doing later. I'm going to be here for at least 2-3 hours sitting at the bar at Angel of Harlem. So this is the vibe. I will shout out Angel all day long, every day. So I gotta come do the Saturday night thing.
Saturday, you gotta pull up on Saturday.
I always tell people, I say, my Friday happy hour spot is here, but I'm gonna have to come on Saturday night.
Come check me
out. But people ask me, they say, well, what do you do Saturday? I'll be asleep. And they're like, well, I said, I'm busy. I was like, what you doing Friday, Saturday? I said, I come to Angel Harlem early, I go to sleep. And then Saturdays, I be asleep. And then I roll the next, but I will come through here.
Saturday. Come outside.
Absolutely. Say less. Say less.
Well, it's been great having you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for your time.
JoJo, the pleasure is mine. Yes. Absolutely.
We gotta, I need some photos, how they can follow you.
On IG, I'm Dan Henry New York. My website is www.danhenrynewyork.com, or specifically my jazz photography is noirgallery.nyc, Noire gallery.nyc. But mostly, if you want to see me, see my vibe and stuff, you catch me on Instagram. That's my main thing.
Period. Well, it's been great having you on. I feel like we're going to have you back soon because I feel like we didn't even get into all the things you do. You kept surprising me with more and more things. So the man with many hats.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, we didn't even talk about my birthday trip. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to come back.
We got to bring you back on. We got to bring you back on. But it's been real today. And, folks, it's DJ JoJo. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. Until next time, keep it real.